Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Coffee with Coaches. I did it. I was explaining about the name change that I'd finally mastered it and called it Conversations with Coaches. And I just had a sip of coffee and I called it Coffee with Coaches. The Conversations with Coaches podcast, formerly Coffee with Coaches. And don't worry, I'm still having coffee right this moment. My guest today is not me talking about how much I love coffee. My guest is Deb Erickson. I'm very pleased to have her here today. Deb is a neurotrainer, mindset expert, and creator of the ICAN Neuro System app, helping direct sales and network marketing professionals catapult their businesses to new heights. Unlike any other industry training, Deb's legitimately revolutionary approach is designed to look at success from the inside out, merging proven neuroscience-based tools with outer skill-based business training, liberating entrepreneurs from mental limiters to quickly and consistently increase selling and sponsoring activity, resulting in unprecedented revenue growth. A lot of big claims there. Quite frankly, all of them backed up, and I'm really excited to talk to Deb about today. Deb, thank you so much for being here and letting me stumble over my intro.
I am so excited to be here. I love talking about coaching.
Well, shoot, let's get right into it then. And let's start with your start. How did you first become or maybe realize that you were a coach? And how did you turn that realization from that beginning into the coaching business you have today?
Well, I will say it was a legitimate athletic coaching experience. I had a very troubled childhood. By the time I got to a brand new school and got my first basketball coach, I realized that my head was not in the game. I had a lot of skill. I was captain of the team. I was running the show, the little general, but my head wasn't in the game. My coach would pull me aside before a game and say, "Talk to me. I want to look in your eyes. I want to see where you are." And she would tell me at the beginning, right, we're either going to win the game or lose the game based on your mindset. I mean, it was really powerful.
Yeah.
And but then she backed it up with real tools. We practiced all kinds of, at the time it was called positive mental attitude. But today I look back and I realize those were the early stages of neuro tools and neuro training. She was teaching us how to train and rewire our minds. And quite honestly, I look back and I say she saved my life because I was in trouble as a kid. And, I had that experience, those moments with her. And as I then became an athletic coach and a teacher and got out in the world, I saw the same thing with kids all the time. And so then I decided to get on the motivational circuit, and I was teaching, I was going into gymnasiums and talking to thousands and thousands of kids, working with troubled kids and leaders. And that segued into business. Everybody was coming to me and saying, "Hey, we love what you did with the kids. Could you come do it for our business?" And so after a period of time, I kind of found my sweet spot with the direct selling and network marketing community. And I developed the skills and the tools into really a neuro coaching kind of certification and process. And that's where I've landed and hung out for the last 20 years.
I like that term, hung out, because it's casual and serious. There's a lot of connection going on. We're here to have a good time and learn how to be better versions of ourselves. Let's take it seriously, but not too seriously. I love your journey to how natural. I mean, you're probably skilled and expert at describing it at this point, but it's just such a natural progression. I imagine at some points during the journey didn't quite feel so smooth or natural, but it's just, you have a lovely way of expressing how each moment, each phase of your life bled naturally into the other. It shows what a lot of coaches demonstrate very readily and very willingly, is that ability to reflect and learn from their journey and then translate that to a form that other people can really access and understand. It's just lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was no question there. I just wanted to compliment how elegant that was. That covers, I'm sure there's a lot of stories and a lot of those years, but we have a short podcast, so we're going to bring it up to the present here real quick. I would love to know, wherever you want to begin, wherever you want to jump in, what are the nuts and bolts of your neuro system, your coaching approach these days? Like, and also not just the process itself and the system, but who you primarily focus on coaching, if you have specific industries you lock in on, or specific levels or people at certain stages in their journey. Like, who do you coach, and how do you coach them in your practice these days?
Yeah, I focus a lot on men and women in the network marketing space. So these are people who are selling a product, they are building an organization, they are solopreneurs, they need support. And so, I kind of started with coaching individuals. Then we moved into group because I just couldn't handle, all of that was eating up my calendar. And then I realized one day that, I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again. And I was like, time for a class. Because as a coach, when you are, you're kind of tiptoeing into different relationships during your coaching session. So there's the question and discovery period, right? And then there is the, oops, we need to do a little training here, give a little bit of information here. So there's different parts of a coaching session. But what I noticed is that everybody needed some core understanding about how their brain was wired. I think it was really when I first started my own childhood abuse, kept it would leak in, and I'd realize that my wounds were pretty much their wounds. And it had to be really careful because people really wanted to kind of move it into therapy. And I was like, no, we're not, there's not therapy session, coaching session. And so I began to really uncover what are the key components that people don't know about how we're wired, how the brain really works, why we're showing up the way we are, right? So what's the wiring from the past? And then what can we do to change it? And up until that point, I think what was happening is I relied heavily on coaching strategies that I learned in athletics. So be the cheerleader, be the, the motivator, the inspiration, all of those things. But what I discovered was when you're moving with individuals, when you're helping an individual create change, all of that has temporary support. It allows somebody to feel better in the moment, but it doesn't create long-term change. And, I was after long-term. I wanted to help somebody have a massive breakthrough and then have the daily tools that they needed to truly transform their thoughts, their beliefs, their emotions, and then therefore their actions. So what I did really over a period of 20 years is I took everything I was experiencing and created some classes, right? Here's some neurosystem classes for people to understand what's going on. And then I did classes that were designed to help them get specific results, like face their fear and elevate, their selling and recruiting experience. But it was really doing a whole, hours and hours and hours and hours of coaching, finding the parallels, finding the places where universally people were getting stuck. So I created that system.
I love that. There are a million things I could latch onto there, but obviously there's a few things that jump out to me. One in particular that you came back around to is that commitment to and process of discovery. And actually, if I could borrow a metaphor for a moment, it reminds me a little bit of the things I've read about or heard about regarding how stand-up comics will work on stuff. Like, obviously, when you see like the big names and they're on the stage and they're doing the hour-long special and everything flows naturally one into the other, and they're telling stories and getting laughs and then bringing the emotion down, and you see this like, wow, this is masterful. What you don't see, maybe you do if you're an aficionado of that form, that art form, is that you don't see them bombing on stage in tiny clubs and standing up in front of, 11 people, 5 of whom are comedians themselves, hardest audience possible, just trying stuff and having it not connect or having it not work, or maybe having it work too well and derail the rest of their act, et cetera, et cetera. And I just love that your one-to-one coaching, obviously you hit that eventual calendar limit. There is only so much of you to go around, and realized that a change was required. But you also understood, or really gleaned, so much insight from those one-to-ones, and really understood, and this is where I love, is that commonality, that the places where we're all struggling, where we're all lacking, where we could all benefit from some real specific teaching, some real coaching, quite frankly. And again, not therapy, coaching. Very important to catch that line before it goes too far across. And then move into it with a system, with a plan, with a blueprint that's common to everyone and adaptable to the individual's needs. And that's just, that's lovely. And again, I don't so much have a question there, just so much to latch onto. And I love how thoroughly and completely engineered your system and process is, while still remaining completely permeable and vulnerable and very human, quite frankly. I love it.
Well, it's the reason we moved it to the app is just what you're saying, is that, you know, we did all the classes on Zoom. We put it on a platform. It was available. I built a library of neuro tools. There's about 80 plus neuro tools, searchable by topic and by need and even by moment and by program, you know, all that. It was one, you know, that's years and years and years of development. But then, you know, there kind of comes this moment where you're like, what's the next step? And building an app was next, because what I realized is people need these resources 24/7, online or off, right? It's a in the moment access that makes all the difference. What we are seeing is, you know, people have always had a short attention span, but it's getting worse. It's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And you know all the reasons for that. But the training, right? People have to consume stuff in smaller bites. And so making everything microburst training, so they can get in, get the point, have the moment. And so what the app does is it allows me to do all of it, right? It's kind of how adults learn. There's some training, that's the learn it side. Then there's the application or practice side. That's where they're using the neuro tools in their daily life. And then there's the feedback side, right? Where they get to come back, be together in a community, share what they're doing, get feedback, find accountability. So what I discovered is the app allowed me to do the cycle, put the cycle together so that no matter where somebody was, they were surrounded. You know, statistically, we know that women hit their goals 86% more of the time. They're 86% more likely to hit a goal if they are surrounded by community, coaching, accountability. So when they're in isolation, they really struggle. And so that's part of what we did is we built all of the success support, you know, pieces of the equation for people so they could have it in their pocket. So lovingly, people call it Deb in my head. So, they got me with them all the time.
Oh, that's perfect. I love that so much. And I'm certain that it's said with tremendous affection. And you're right. I love, it's an expression of, I mean, wisdom that is as old as human thought, quite frankly. Just that the things that you need to do, that the need to be able to be met where you're at in order for something to truly affect the change you want in your life. And in these days, people are all over the place. And like you said, it's not just the attention deficit, although that's there as well. But you just have, people are more spread thin maybe, and they're also spread across the world. And yet, you know, you have something that is valuable to them and you want to make sure that they have access to it. And also you have those moments of impact where it's like you can provide what turns out to be a lightning bolt for someone. It only takes a couple minutes, but it goes back with them. It hits them at 3 a.m., you know, or whatever that right moment is where they just needed it. And you couldn't be there personally, but they had access to it. And I just love this blending, this hybrid approach that really takes everything that is truly magical about the technology we have at our disposal, and also everything that is deeply and profoundly human, and merges them together in such a way to have maximum impact on the most people in the best ways. And I'm not going to get Deb in my head out of my head, I don't think, for the rest of the day. I love that so much.
That's great.
Is there, I mean, I could keep you here all day. I'd be greedily, jealously. But before we go, is there anything specific that you're excited about that's coming up around the corner? Anything new, or just anything that you want to promote or talk about here real quick?
Yeah, you know, I've spent 20 plus years in the sales and, you know, marketing industry, helping salespeople. And I had this experience about 5 years ago. Somebody was at one of my big events. So there were like thousands of people in the audience, raised her hand from the back of the room and said, "Hey, would this stuff work for weight loss?" Now you have to know that my life has been up and down, yo-yo dieting, ballooned up, ballooned down. Part of the result of, troubled childhood, but I'm standing there on stage, the heaviest weight I have ever been in my life. And I had that moment, where I had this light bulb moment where I'm like, what the heck? How could I not have thought about neuro tools designed for wellness and weight loss? So I went home and put the neuro tool package together. I started using it. And in a very short period of time, about 6 months, I'd lost 50 pounds and kept it off. I've kept it off, not put a single pound back on now in over 5 years. And so I had my customers, because you're on Zoom all the time, people are watching you shrink away and they're like, what are you doing? And so we have launched a brand new, same thing, app, personal coaching package for mind and body. And basically, we're using the same neuroscience, the same kinds of neuro tools, but designed for health and wellness. And we're just launching that. People can check that out. Honestly, that's my new love, is helping people with their mental, emotional, and physical health.
I love it. And of course, like in retrospect, it makes perfect sense. Of course, you address the entire human existence, mind, body, spirit, emotion. It's all connected. It's all one thing. It's helpful to break it up sometimes so that we can address specific problems, but it's perfect. Quite frankly, it's perfect. Where can people find out more about this? Is it just your main website, or do you have a special place you like?
No, I have a special place. It's called ICAN Mind and Body. So www.icanmindandbody.com. They can try the app free for 14 days. So it gets them through an entire module, neuro tools, neuro training, check-in calls, everything. But if they go there, they can log in and check it out.
Awesome. And I've obviously had a tremendously excellent time talking with you. How do you like to meet people? Are you particularly active on any social media? How do you like for people to get to know you better?
Right. Well, if you want to get more information about the mind body, we've got our own social channels and YouTube channel and, all of those things. And I'll get you all the links so we can put them in.
Excellent.
And the business side of the equation, everything is under ICAN Institute, which is my company name. But depending on what is right for an individual, we have apps, we have tools, there's free resources. Free resources out the wazoo, training, neuro tools, all kinds of stuff.
Excellent. Man, this is awesome. I actually have a little bit of homework of my own to do, because I just did a little bit. I scratched the surface and realized I could just be reading about everything that you're doing for the rest of my day. So I'm going to do that here later on. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Deb. I hope you could tell that I greatly appreciate it, and I really love talking with you.
I feel the same way. Thanks, Kevin.
And to the audience, find out more. Dip into these resources. The links will be in the show notes. Quite frankly, this is amazing stuff, and I think necessary. So check it out. Reach out to Deb, find her, get to know her better. We'll talk to you again soon.